Hey there, this is Dr. Pam Perry with Speakers Magazine. If you are in a position where you want to pivot and you want to really profit and get paid and have prosperity without the burnout, this is the show for you. I have Dana L. Cox that's going to be joining us today. And let me tell you, this lady is a badass. That's really like one of the name of her books. And you'll learn a lot about her, but one of the thing I find that is most fascinating about her, she's going to be in our June issue of Speakers Magazine, is that she has 7 children. Yeah, I said it, like 7 children. It's like, what? And had a corporate career. And you heard the old story of like starting at the bottom and now we're here. Well, she actually started as like a secretary and moved all the way up in a global corporation. So I'm so excited just to hear her journey, but she has really some insight that she wants to give you as well that will really talk about how to really position yourself to paid, which is a framework that she has. So I'm going to bring her up right after this. Okay, let's get into it. We got Dana L. Cox. I mean, we should probably see like a Superwoman cape flying behind you, okay? Because this, and it, you know, you are amazing. One thing you said, and I listened to another podcast you were on, Dana. You were at a point where you were over 200 and almost 240 pounds.
287, Dr. Pam.
Oh
280.
my God. Oh my God. And so we were, you're gonna be in the June issue, right? So these full body shots, I was like, oh, she's a nice thin lady. I like this lady. And I had no idea you had 7 children. I was like, it seemed like I only have one. It's like after one child, I gained like 70 pounds. I was like, I can't imagine having 7 children. That'll be 7 times 70. I would have gained weight. So,
Well,
so
something like that.
I would first of all, how did you do that? How did you gain it? I know from the burnout, but how did
Mhm.
you lose it? And you
You
look
know,
amazing.
well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a journey. It definitely has been a journey to lose it. And some of it was just stress, right? And making the lifestyle changes that were necessary because I was doing a lot of driving through. I'll put it that way. A lot of
Mm,
driving
yes,
through,
yes.
carting the kids and all the things like that. And, that became a habit. But now, sitting down, meal prepping, different things like that, moving my body.
Mhm, mhm.
Was really
Exercise.
important. Exercising, proper rest is is definitely is underrated, but it shouldn't be because rest is really important to allow your body to reset and rejuvenate and things of that nature. So before I was only get 3 to 4 hours a night. Now definitely getting my 7 to 8 quality hours of sleep. I
Yeah.
am team go to bed these days.
Yes. 3 hours of sleep will definitely catch up with you, especially for high achieving, uh, men and women, but we need that REM sleep, I guess they call it, that really the REM sleep to reset. And so you started, you know, your career in a major, Fortune 500 or top Fortune
Mhm.
100 probably company, and then you rose to through the ranks. And what happened during that period of time that you kinda saw, "Well, this is what I wanna do next," and or how were you navigating your career to where you are now doing your speaking and your coaching and I guess you say during the fixing, that's the company name.
Yes, going through the ranks was really more about strategy, and I think it really took having a leader who was willing to take me under her wing and really say to me, "I see greatness in you. I see something in you that you don't even recognize in yourself."
Mm.
That was the first time because I was trying to quit my job. I was literally trying to quit my job because I felt like she was terrorizing me because she was stretching me in it in to be stretching
Yeah.
me to where I really could grow. And
Mhm.
it was uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and I didn't like the discomfort. And so I wanted to quit.
That's
And
true. That
and
is
she
so
told
many
me,
times,
yeah,
when we're being stretched to the point where, like, "You know what? I can't do this. I'm done." But
mhm,
really, she saw something in you and knew that there was more for you.
yeah,
And that's what made you rise all the different ranks and that sort of thing up
yeah,
up all the way through, even
yeah.
through the birth of the children to
Even
7.
through the birth of the children, even through the birth of the children. And I tried to quit. She told me she wouldn't accept my resignation that day. But if I wanted to quit tomorrow, she would accept it. But I went home and I thought to myself, I'm like, no one's ever spoke that type of life into me outside of my grandparents to say, I see something in you that you don't even recognize in yourself.
Mm,
And if you want to tap into that, I'm here to work with you.
that is good. I
And so
want
I went
people
to work the next day and said, "Okay, I don't want I'm here for it."
I want people to, 1, go to danalcox.com, but also there is a website called Career Refresh Now. And I think a lot of people in this season, especially a lot of the federal workers, and then that's a trickle down effect to all the other
Mhm,
type of organizations that are affected. But you really have a free training, and this
mhm,
is so appropriate. I want people to really take a look at this, where they can actually go and get your free training if you've been laid off or you're scared you're going to get laid off or you're stuck in your career, and how they can reclaim basically what you have found. oop, what you have found is that they can reclaim their clarity, their confidence in a career strategy, like what you said. It's
mhm,
like I went through starting as a administrative assistant all the way up to the top in management in a global organization with a strategy.
mhm,
And that's not something that everybody knows, not something that's taught in school. No one teaches you strategy in school. They just tell you to read the book, memorize it, and take the test.
yes.
So strategy is something where you need a coach for, and that's what I
Mhm,
really want people to understand, that they can go to Career Refresh Now, scrolling across the bottom now, and actually do the free training there. And that's something that you offering there. And I want to make sure
mhm,
that I said that right up front before we kind of go more into your background. So Speakers Magazine is going to be
mhm,
having you featured in June, which is our Juneteenth issue, which we call Liberation, right? It's like the liberation for African Americans. The people in Texas didn't know 2.5 years later that they were free. That's like, okay, give me some back pay, but they don't get back pay, they don't get reparations. So that's
mhm,
a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But you're
mhm,
going to be in a June issue. But I want you to really talk about what you have coming up now in terms of where you are speaking. I
mhm,
would love for you to meet JJ Conway, who is doing the Juneteenth event. And she's doing it in Dallas, but she also has a virtual component. I would love to connect you with her so that
awesome.
you can speak at that event as well and really talk about the the mindset of where people are right now, because that's really what your free training is about. So I'll connect you with her as well, so that you could speak at that event virtually. But the other thing I want you to talk about is your speaking, your training, and
Mhm,
also to some of the coaching that you're doing and where you are speaking at, and what's the your sweet spot or some of your signature talks. I know you have a book, so probably I would tell this for speakers. They speak on what's in their book. So
mhm,
they don't read to the audience, but they talk about maybe chapters from the book. So
mhm.
talk about some of your favorite things that people call on you to speak about.
So next week, I'm actually speaking in Philadelphia at the 3V Women's Conference, and
Mhm.
I'm talking about rewriting the rules and building a life that loves you back. Because I think that that's something. Well, it's something definitely something I've done. But I think that people need to understand how they too can rewrite the rules on their life and build a life not only that they love, but that loves them. And
Yeah,
I think that covers all the facets of life, financially, relationally, relationships, as far as
and
your physical
because
and
you
your
rebuilt your life there
physical.
too now. So let's not talk about that, because you released a lot of pounds.
Yes,
That
yes,
is
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
that's a result of the mindset too. That's a
It
result of the
is.
mindset.
It
Mhm.
really is. And, I think where your mind goes, your body and your life follows, right? What we think about is what we bring about. And
Mhm.
so, I'm a firm believer that life and death lives within our mouths, but also within our minds. And so I can have anything I say I can have if I'm willing to do the work that goes along with it to get me to that place.
Mhm. So you're gonna be speaking there. And what are
Yes.
some of like the so when you're speaking or you're doing training for
Mhm,
organizations and things like that, and you're talking about leadership, because
mhm.
leadership has so many different categories, I guess you would say. What is your sweet spot in terms of care? Is it clarity? Is it helping people get confidence? Let's talk about your framework because I like the framework and that is trademark. So let's talk about your framework.
Yes. So the framework, let me put it that way. Position to pay really covers three components, right? There's strategic positioning, there
Mhm,
is align to pivot, and then
mm,
there's being well paid, right? And so you need to have a strategy on where you're going. That's where the strategic positioning comes in, right? You need to have a strategy. I need to be clear about where I want to go, whether it's upward, outward, or onward. Where am I headed? You need
mhm.
to know what that destination is. So you need clarity on that.
Yeah.
Once you are clear on that, then you understand how you need to position yourself, what branding, what visibility you need to be, placing yourself into, and then how to monetize that. I'll take
Mm,
a corporate climber, for example, someone who wants to really move up within their corporation. They need to know where they want to move, right? Not just I want to be promoted, but promoted to what? Promoted to where? What department? What division? Those types of things, that level of clarity is really important because then you understand, do I have the skill set necessary? Who do I need to know and who needs to know me? What
mhm.
projects do I need to be working on in order to get the exposure
Yes.
to the right people? And then how do I then, if I'm on that project, how do I leverage that to my benefit, right? And a
Ooh,
lot
that's
of
my
times
favorite word is leverage.
because a lot of times we do these projects, we take on these opportunities, if you will, and we don't leverage them appropriately. We put it on our year-end review, and I did project XYZ, but okay, so what?
Yeah,
What was
you've
your
gotta
you
use
got to tie
it.
it to something, right? You need to
Yes.
write it in such a way that you are connecting it to the things that matter to those in leadership, right?
That
Um,
is something
what was
that
your
I
role?
yes, that is something that, I haven't worked in corporate for a while, but when I was working for a PR firm,
Mhm,
one of the things that we had PR, weekly,
mhm,
and we had, PR some other PR journal, I believe it was, but I would actually submit whenever there were things that I did, awards that I won, or, projects that really were newsworthy, so to speak, that that was something big for the
mhm,
client. I would submit them to our trade journals, and I would actually write a lot for our trade journals in the PR space, and then I would join, obviously, PR organizations, right?
mhm,
So I would join the PR organizations, and I would speak at those organizations. So then my company was represented because at that time I was connected to a PR firm, but they also saw that I was going on these different stages and getting them known as well. This was like
mhm.
in my 30s and early 40s. So at that point, that's some of the things that people can do when they're looking at like visibility where, join your trade organizations, be in your do a press release on yourself if you win an award. Well, how about this? How about you nominate yourself for an award? That is something that the company probably does not have the bandwidth to do, and quiet as it's kept, people don't just automatically just nominate you for awards. There are awards that are out there that you have to nominate yourself, and you
Absolutely,
need to do that. I
absolutely.
am so surprised that people do not realize that these awards are like they won this award. Well, they nominated themselves. They have to write
Yeah,
the nomination and they are
mhm,
chosen, but they weren't like out of the sea of people in the world and
mhm.
say, "Ooh, let's just pick her as a winner." No, you have to nominate yourself. So that is a really a good strategy for
Yeah,
visibility. Now that
ab
part, I know visibility. So yeah, yeah,
absolutely. And I think the one things I say to people is you are the CEO of your career.
yes.
Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are in the corporate space or in the government space, it doesn't matter. Your career is your responsibilities.
Mhm.
Nobody's boss is sitting around thinking about where you should go next.
Yeah,
That's your responsibility. Where do you
yes.
want to go? and then you figure out the path to get there. And you figure out, you also need to have the responsibility to have that conversation with that person to say, this is what I desire. This is how I need your support, your help. This is what it looks like. And then get them on board with your strategy to help you execute that.
The ASK. You don't GET if you don't ASK. And
That's right.
that's something that comes with confidence
Mm-hmm.
and clarity, which is what your career refresh now
Yeah.
is really all about. It's I don't think people need more certifications, and I
Mm-hmm.
really don't think people need more. We can educate. We're in the information age. You can Google anything. I don't think that's what's really needed. I think clarity and confidence is so key, and a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you need someone to coach because you need to be held accountable, because we can have a lot of information and hoard it
Mm-hmm.
and not do anything with it. So a coach will really hold your feet to the fire. So I like that. And so what's the
Mm-hmm.
third pillar of your framework?
The third pillar is being well paid. And you mentioned about, if you don't ASK, you don't GET. That is really a big piece of it, right? A lot of times people don't negotiate, they just take the first thing offered. That is that's not okay. You have to be
Mm,
willing to advocate for yourself. You need to understand, what is your market value in the ecosystem. What should you be paid? What is an appropriate package? What is an appropriate pricing for your services, for
mhm,
that matter?
mhm.
A lot of times we are just happy for people to pay us anything,
I
and
think
only take the first
I
offer.
think women have that more than men. I
They do.
really do.
They do.
I
They do.
I think that it's something in like I said, with the last few decades or so, women just being in the workplace and being like the
Mhm,
first woman CEO, this and that,
mhm,
that it's like really been a thing about the pay. And
mhm,
it's more or less like from I know my mother was a housewife, so she didn't work. So I was the first person to really work, like, in a
mhm,
career. And so it was that when you said when someone offered you a job, "Thank you." And that was it. I never thought
yep,
that I could negotiate more.
mhm,
It was never a thing. We never talked about that because she never
mhm,
knew that. So having a coach do that,
mhm.
especially now when people are uh, can go anywhere, they can work for themselves. There's so many more options.
So
So
many options,
so
so many
people
options.
need to know that. That is really, really good. I like,
Absolutely.
she says, "If you don't ASK, you don't GET, clarity and confidence is what is your market value." Yes, yes,
Mhm,
that is so true. That is so true. Thank you for coming in and chiming in and reiterating that, because that's one of the things at her course at Career
mhm,
Refresh Now, that talks about how to build your confidence, how to get clarity, and then she takes you through her framework that she has, which is a position to paid. And really getting paid is really why we work. We want,
mhm.
obviously, we want to be enriched by our work. We want to enjoy our work, but you want to get paid.
Yeah.
And that is something that women, is that really like the sweet spot of some of the leadership people that you speak to or train with?
I cover both men and women, but I of course am a woman, so my lived experience
Yes.
really relates heavily to women and all of the things that women juggle, because we juggle a lot. I'm
Hmm.
a firm believer that women work a third shift that no one talks about.
Hmm.
The mental and the emotional weight that we carry.
Hmm.
Santa has elves, everybody else has us.
Hmm. Hmm. And
And
that is one of the things that there's a study, I believe, that talked about how the pay grade is still not equal. There's still like that gap. And
Mhm.
so the gap doesn't come because people are bad. Maybe
No,
they don't want to pay us. We don't ask.
we don't
We don't do that. We don't do that. And so
have.
really having the confidence to ask that
Mhm,
is what you coach people through,
mhm,
because you've done it. You've been there and done that. So let's kind of talk a little bit about you taking this leap of faith into the speaking, coaching, training, book writing.
yeah,
That's a whole nother thing, because each one of those is just like, because you could write a book and then it's like, oh my God, I'm putting myself out there. What if no one buys it? Like that and then some of the things you write about are so
mhm,
personal.
mhm.
Let's talk about the confidence it took for you to step out of the boat and some of the steps that you took to
Whew.
do it.
It's interesting, right, Dr. Pam, because what I like to say is, you get to define what success looks like for you, right? For me, when I wrote my first book, success was just publishing it. I didn't have a number of how many people should buy it or whatever. Just putting
Just
it
get it
out,
done.
get it,
Hmm.
get it done, and put it out there. That was a success. Now, if one person bought it or 100 people bought it, it still was a success, right? And so it's important for us to define success for ourselves and what that looks like in order to not be measuring ourselves by someone else's definition of that. That
Hmm.
allows you to, a lot of times we are measuring ourselves based upon someone else's stick or what someone else says success looks like. And
Hmm.
I've rewritten that rule. I get to define what success looks like for me, and it may change with the season or where I am in the season of my
Hmm.
life, but I get to determine that, and that is because joy and peace are really important for me and are barometers for me in my life today. And so, what brings me joy? What brings me peace? What helps me to feel like I am making an impact?
Hmm.
Writing the books definitely were a labor of love. But I'm also a firm believer that I didn't have that journey to hold it to myself. I had the journey in order to be able to pay it forward and to help others who may be experiencing that same thing, to be able to see that they're not alone and
Hmm.
that they can then have a pathway to get out of where they are.
Hmm. And books are there forever.
Books
And
are there forever.
they are
Yes.
there forever. One of the things with Speakers Magazine, I tell people there are like really just like three things that you really, really need. Obviously, you need to have something to say. You need to have a book. Your book is your hook. It can go where you can't, like if there's like say for instance, this is a client, and I
Mhm.
would like to introduce you to her as well, Tari Donaldson. But her book is called Extreme Vision. And so she had been speaking, but when she got the book, now she's speaking more
Mhm.
because now we can hand off the book and say these are the things that she talks about: how to identify and pursue your true calling, how to clarify your vision, how to overcome self-doubt and fear of failure, so now it's in a package that I can hand off. And
Mhm.
then obviously you need the website, and the website holds your media kit, holds your one sheet, holds your video. It's your container of everything, that your digital container of everything that you are. So
Yeah.
I tell people, I say you need those three things. So the press, and you
Mhm.
need the book. You obviously need to, like you have DanaLCox.com, that's important. And then you have your
Mhm.
training, so you have all the pieces. And I think the hardest part, if people are in a corporate position or leaving a corporate position, they don't know what comes first. Like, what do I do first? How do I write the book first before I leave the job? Do I leave the job and then go write the book? Do I coach? Do I get a client? So
Mhm.
and they're really kind of like, I don't know what to do. But the
Mhm.
main thing is like position yourself where,
Mhm.
with the clarity, position yourself. Getting in Speakers Magazine is important. So then people say, oh, you're a speaker. Yes, I am. What do you speak on? And you can say it with clarity, and
Yes.
they can see the receipts. And I always tell
Mhm.
people, I said, it's not necessarily that you see all these other people getting speaking gigs because they're better. They just have a plan.
They have a plan.
They have a
Have a
plan.
plan. And then they're executing on that plan.
That part.
You got to put in the work, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times people ask me, what does FIX stand for? Are you fixing people? FIX stands for focused and intentional execution.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I am definitely an activator. So when you talk
Mhm.
about execution, that is so key because
Mhm.
I see people that will buy book after book or course after course and never act on anything. And I'm like, you can't wait on perfect conditions. You can
Yeah.
course correct as you move. You have enough information. You have probably more information than most, but you're scared, and they
Mhm.
have to know how to move. And so fix your company. I like the name of it, Fix. It's like you're a fixer.
I
So
am.
kind of tell people, when if they go to Dana L. Cox, .com, what they will find there, what kind of things that they can book a call with you, obviously, but
They
do
can
they get
definitely, yes,
some
they can.
kind of other information?
Yeah, they get a lot of information as to, a lot about my methodology, a little bit about my personality. A lot of times people say I have my rich auntie vibe because I'm very direct, but it all
I
comes
love
from
that.
a place of love, right? Because I want to help people see the greatness in themselves, so that they can really become their best versions of themselves and really achieve the goals that they've set out for themselves. They'll also get an opportunity to see, some of the other things that I speak on, but also about my, the things that I do from a corporation perspective, the leadership development and things of that nature,
Ah,
and resources. So I do have, both of the books are out on my site,
good.
but also I have some courses, some online digital courses as well. So
All
have
of
a,
this was really,
yeah.
really thought out. I love that. I looked at the website, and so I'm looking at it from a different eye. So
Mhm.
I gave it like a plus. One was the pictures were great. There were some personality shots, and then obviously there were some corporate shots. I looked at the fact that it just flowed very well. I didn't feel overwhelmed, even though there was a lot of information and there, a lot of depth. I just really, really love the strategic way you put it together. And how long have you been doing your company full time since you left? Let's talk about how you left. And was it, you always said you had aspirations to
Mhm.
start your own company and start your speaking career, but how long has it been and what kind of was the catalyst, I guess you would say?
So the catalyst was reorg.
Okay,
And
that's the catalyst for most today.
yeah,
Yep.
it was
Mhm.
reorg. And I took 6 weeks to just kind of be with me, right? And really get clear on what I wanted to do. I had some other corporate offers come in, and over that 6 week period of time of traveling and just really enjoying my family, I
Mhm.
really decided like I could pivot back into corporate if I decide to. But right now I have an opportunity and I want to take it. And so it's been about 9 months.
You
It's kind of
built
like
it.
like birthing the baby.
It is. I was gonna say that 6 weeks is kinda like what you take after you have the birth of the baby. It's kinda like, "Okay, now what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
Let's just kinda, like, settle in with this."
yeah.
I
And so
think
I've
you have
learned a lot
done.
in this 9 month journey. I've learned a lot. I've had a lot of pivots, but the lessons have been so wonderful. And I've
Mhm.
learned a lot about me. I always knew I was resilient and resourceful, but I didn't know to what degree until I became an entrepreneur.
Oh, let me tell you, baby, it is the best personal development program you can ever have, let me
Yes,
tell you.
ma'am.
I tell people, I said, "Do you do a lot of personal development?" "Every day, I'm an entrepreneur," okay? That is the personal development program because it will pull on you on every single string of you.
Yes,
And you have to have confidence and you have to have clarity. So if you don't, you have to work on it every single day. Not
every
that
day.
you don't if you have a job, and I'm not saying that, but the job is a security blanket because every other week or whatever, every week you're getting a paycheck. And so with there is a you take the leap of faith when you're an entrepreneur and you're hoping the net will appear,
Yes.
but sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you'll jump and you'll hit a rock and it's like, "Oh
Mhm.
my god, what happened here?" And sometimes, and I've been in business going on 25 years. Sometimes in your first year, and sometimes the second year, maybe up until your you will have those doubts like, "I'm gonna quit. Imma go get a job." It's like, "I'm gonna, you know what? I'm not playing this game no more. I'm going back. I'm gonna go," and it's just, and I always say that, just stick it
Mhm.
out. It's just stick it out because it's said, like, some days it's just like you just get fed up and you think, "The grass is greener on the other side." Yeah, but this is what you're committed to. This is what
Yeah.
you're called to. This is where your joy and peace is, even though there will be some irritations. That's why the thing that really turns you anybody around is having a coach.
Mhm.
Okay, a
Right.
coach and Jesus, those are the
Yeah.
2.
Amen. Amen.
You gotta have
And
Jesus, and then behind that,
yeah,
a good coach that
yeah.
will help you go through those ebbs and flows of the
Mhm.
business, and really just help you navigate the strategy. It's like, okay, you're your sounding board.
Mhm.
And also too, Dana, I will say this, that really joining organizations are important. I'm in an organization called Black Door Society. I'm in an organization called Women Elevating Women. There's eWomen Network. There's professional organizations. Like I said, there's the National Association of Black
Yeah.
Journalists. Those organizations are your professional organization. If you're MBA, Black MBA
Mhm.
Association, whatever, if you're in sales, I think it's the National Sales Executives Association. They're
Mhm.
having Damon John speak and some other folks speak, but going to those conferences, being a part of those groups and being in leadership,
Yeah.
not just joining, but being
Yeah.
in leadership really will help develop you as a speaker and just networking. And then also to joining something like Black Speakers Network is important
Mhm.
as well, or NSA or Black NSA, which stands for National Speakers Association. So those are important to do to stay connected, especially if you're an entrepreneur, because typically right now you're kind of working by yourself. So you want to be a part of a, when you're in a corporation, you
A
work with other
group
people.
of a group of people. You need your tribe, right? You need your community, because community is really key, right?
Yes,
Especially in those moments where you wanna throw the towel in, you have somebody bringing you back,
yes, yes.
helping you helping you stay on the field. Don't get off the field just yet.
That is it, that is it. So DanaLCox.com, I want people to go there and then go to careerrefreshnow.com. And then also too, she'll be speaking at different events. If you want to book her to
Oh,
speak, you'll be finding more information about her in the June issue, and she'll be on on speakersmagazine.com website forever. So when people are looking for business motivational speakers, that's kind of like what they see you as, a business motivational speaker. Those are these are the type of people that you will look for. And she's hailing from the Midwest, St. Louis area. So,
yes,
especially if you have something in that area as well, but she travels, or we can
I
do
do.
things virtual. I mean,
I travel a lot, Dr. Pam. I travel a lot. Stay
yeah,
on point.
you can, and virtually one of
Virtually
the things too, there's a lot of expats or a lot of people who are speaking overseas and that sort of
Mhm.
thing in the Caribbean, over in the motherland. Those are great places too to also look at as far as markets as well. Is the United States obviously is our where we are from, but
Mhm.
look at other markets as well, where we look at South America, things like that. So Colombia, who knows? So look at things like that as well, because I think a lot of speakers in the United States, it's like we're all kind of like, within each other. It's like, oh, okay, you spoke at that event last year. Go overseas, speak
Yeah,
it, look at some of those type of things. They have the same type of organizations, professional organizations overseas, the International Association of A, B, and C International. So look to speak at those kind of things virtually. Those are really, really good. That helps our professional development as well and expands our market. So thank you
absolutely.
so much for joining us today. This has been really, really good. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that I did not go over? I want to make sure that, because like I'm telling you, DanaLCox.com, that is rich. So definitely make sure you check it out. And want to make sure too that people hear the careerrefreshnow.com, and they could take that for free for
Yes,
now, because it,
absolutely.
it, it may change. Because I think I heard a little
Commercial.
testimony about someone who took your class for free and they got a 26,000 spike
Yes.
in their salary because of the tips and the tools that you gave them and told them to
Mhm.
do. So
When you put it into action, it works.
there you go. That's what FIX stand for. So what
Yeah.
is the company name again?
It's Fixed Coaching and Consulting. It stands for Focused and Intentional Execution, because we are about taking care of business over here.
See, that's what I'm saying. That is good. That is one of the main things. And they person did that, and then you really had they came back and told you. So a lot
Yeah.
of times people don't tell you because they're just so excited and they forget. But
Mhm.
that person came back and said 26,000. It's like, okay, so you need to really work with me more one-on-one, because if
Yeah.
you could just do that with a free training, just think of what you could do if you work with me.
Yes.
So yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining Speakers Magazine show. Look forward to seeing you in the magazine. Your information will be in the show notes.
Okay.
And we'll be sharing this around. We're live on LinkedIn and Facebook, where she just kind of popped in, and also too on YouTube as well. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I will talk with you later. All right. God bless. Bye bye.